Hello and welcome to Cicerone Live. Thank you so much for joining us for our special live book launch, celebrating the launch of our new Via Francigena guidebooks. The Via Francigena is a pilgrimage route from Canterbury in England to Rome in Italy. Cicerone, along with Sandy Brown and the EAVF, have created two new guidebooks to the Via Francigena, covering the parts of the route through Switzerland, Lausanne and the Great St. Bernard Pass to Lucca, and Italy, Lucca to Rome. The final volume, Part 1, Canterbury to Lausanne, will be published in 2023. I'm Hannah from Cicerone Press, and I'll try and keep this bit brief to allow as much time for our guests as possible. After we've heard from our guests, we will have time for questions at the end, so please do send those in, either through the comments on Facebook or YouTube, or by emailing live@cicerone.co.uk. If you're inspired by what you hear tonight, we're offering a 25% discount on the Via Francigena guidebooks on the Cicerone website. Just use the code VF25 on the Cicerone website, www.cicerone.co.uk. You can also find on our website over 1,000 articles about walking, trekking and cycling, as well as sample routes for all our guidebooks, information about previous and upcoming events, and our podcast. There's just tons to explore. Okay, I will introduce our guests. So our three guests tonight are brought together from Italy, the Netherlands and the US by their love of the Via Francigena. They will be sharing a little of their extensive knowledge and experience, and I'm sure it will be wonderful. First up is Luca Bruschi, joining us from Fidenza in Italy. Luca Bruschi is the Executive Director of the European Association of Via Francigena, and he will introduce the association and talk about the history of the Via Francigena. Next, we'll hear from Sandy Brown, Cicerone's associate publisher and author of many of our pilgrimage guidebooks, including the Via Francigena. Sandy is a long-distance walker from Seattle, Washington, and he's walked over 10,000 kilometers on pilgrim paths in Europe and the US since 2008. Currently walking the California Mission Trail, Sandy joins us from just outside Santa Barbara. Finally, Myra Stels is originally from the Netherlands, but now lives in Italy. She is passionate about cycling and fighting plastic pollution, and in 2020, she cycled along a part of the Via Francigena, collecting litter as she went. She will talk about this trip, as well as introducing the EAVF's Road to Rome project for 2021. Okay, that's me done. Over to Luca.
Hello, hi everyone. A very big sunny hello from Fidenza in Italy, where I am now. First of all, I'm really thrilled and excited to share this event with all of you this afternoon. Thanks to Hannah first for your introduction and for organizing this important event. Before starting, I will try to show you some picture. Just a second. Right. Right, I think you can manage that. Before starting, I have a question. Have you already seen of those guys walking along the route with a big backpack in hiking boots? Maybe he has a little yellow pilgrim attached to his backpack. That's probably a walker or a pilgrim along the Via Francigena. Did you know he continues a 1,000-year-old tradition traveling to Rome? Just the history. Before and starting the Via Francigena, this is the map, the entire map. This route originated in the Middle Age, was frequently used by pilgrims, kings, soldiers, and merchants during the course of history. It was used as a main connection between Northern Europe and to the south of Europe, Mediterranean area, for more than 1,000 years. The modern day Via Francigena is based on a historic journal written by Cicerone, the Archbishop of Canterbury, in 1990, describing the stages of the itinerary. Now you can find this important document in the British Library in London. 2,000 kilometers crossing Europe from the north to the south, England, France, Switzerland, Italy, and Vatican. In Canterbury, just in front of the cathedral, even now you can see the stone, which the kilometer zero that makes the beginning of this way, of the route. But what does it mean exactly, Via Francigena? Be careful with the pronunciation, because it's a difficult word to pronounce. Francigena means road from France. In the Middle Age, it was the word meaning the territories in the modern France, Germany, the Netherlands. Overall, first of all, is the road to Rome. The Via Francigena represent a perfect combination of experiential, cultural, and outdoor tourism. It offers a great opportunity to learn cultures and tradition of local communities along the route, and provide precious moments of exchange between the travelers and the hosts. Travel along Via Francigena also provides spiritual reconnection and self-discovery, which is very important at this moment during the time of coronavirus, when so many people seek for solace. To recognize its value, the Council of Europe certified Via Francigena European Cultural Route in 1994. In 2019, the route was extended at the very south of Italy to Santa Maria di Leuca in Apulia. The association which I represent, the European Association of Via Francigena, was founded exactly 20 years ago, in 2001, to support and promote this amazing cultural route. It happened here in Fidenza, in Italy, where we're still based. The year of the association is, this year the association is going to celebrate the 20th anniversary. Starting with only 34 founded members, we are now a network of more than 200 municipalities, 70 associations, and 400 private stakeholders. The key achievement reached in the past 20 years is a great benefit, both cultural and economic, provided by the Via Francigena to areas crossed by the route and their surrounding. One of the main goals of our association has always been the promotion of the Via Francigena at international level. This is why last year we proudly started a cooperation with Cicerone. We are excited for these 2 new guides, and we are waiting for the 3rd guidebook, starting from Canterbury. A special thanks to the publisher and the author, the pilgrim Sidney Brown. We hope these books will inspire many new travelers to come walk along the route. And what about the profile of pilgrim? Speaking about Via Francigena travelers today, now the route hosts hikers from more than 60 countries in the world. It's great to note the number of walkers from the United States, Canada is ever growing, as well as our fan club in the UK and in Australia. And in Europe, of course, 80% of walkers travel on foot and 20% by bicycle. People of all ages travel along the route. Road to Rome, this is finally the last information I'm going to share with you. I've already told you that the association this year is celebrating a big anniversary this year. It deserves a big celebration, of course. That's why we are launching the event Road to Rome 2021. It's a participant march on foot and by bicycle along the entire Via Francigena for 4 months, starting in Canterbury in June and finishing in Santa Maria di Leuca in October. We'll carry a symbolic pilgrim stick, passing it from pilgrim to pilgrim along the way. For the pilgrim stick, our special thanks goes to the confraternity Pilgrim to Rome. Finally, this event is not only about our birthday, it's also about celebrating travelers and pilgrims ever motivated to walk along this historic route. And finally, let me now pass the pilgrim stick, the symbolic pilgrim stick, to the Sidney Brown, one of the most motivated pilgrims which I know.
Thanks, Luca. I will hand you over now to Sandy.
Well, hi there. Thanks so much. It's really a joy to be able to be part of this event today. And Luca, thank you for your introduction and for you to say about me that I'm one of the most highly motivated pilgrims, that means a lot. And it's been great to participate with the European Association of Via Francigene on this project. And when I began walking this in 2016, when I walked from Piacenza to Rome, I came to realize that the Via Francigena is a very special route. I had already written a guidebook in Italy on the Way of St. Francis, and I was beginning to work on a guidebook on the Camino de Santiago, which I've walked 4 times. I've walked 6 times on the Way of St. Francis. But when I came across the Via Francigena, I begged Cicerone to allow me to do this series of books. And they relented, we relented, I should say. A publisher, Jonathan Williams, finally gave me the go-ahead. And then it was wonderful to participate with EAVF and for it to be an official guidebook of the European Association of Via Francigene. So I'm very excited about that. I have some slides that I want to show you today that will describe the approach that we've taken in this guidebook series. And it really begins with noting that there are 2 of the 3 guidebooks that are already complete. You can see on the right-hand side the volume 3 guidebook, Luca to Rome, which is now available for purchase. And then on the left, you can see the guidebook, book 2, that is Lausanne to Lucca, that is available now for pre-order. And I have been working on these 2 guidebooks for about the last 3 years. And then our production department has been working on these 2 guidebooks for about the last 9 months. And in my opinion, they're really wonderful. They're part of our pilgrimage template, which provides, I think, an unparalleled level of information for people who walk the route. So on the next slide, you can see an overview of the elevations. Oh, actually, this is a map of the route itself. And Luca already, and also Hannah already referred to this, but you can see in the upper left how the route begins in Canterbury. Take a ferry across the English Channel, and then you start your way through France, through Switzerland, and then through Italy to get to Rome. And as Luca mentioned, the official Via Francigena now continues on to the bottom of the heel of the boot of Italy, down at Santa Maria de Leuca. But here in this next slide, you can see an elevation profile of the entire route, and it helps to understand why we've divided this into 3 volumes by looking at the elevation profile. So it is in 3 sections. Oh, yeah, let's go back to the profile. It's in 3 sections, and you can see the green section is the beginning, mostly in France. And notice how quite flat that beginning section is in England and France. Then in the middle part of the profiles, you can see that in the green section, you come into some mountains. Those are as you leave France and you come into Switzerland. And then you see we've switched over to the blue. The blue symbol or stands for where volume 2 begins. Now, in other guides and other approaches, the beginning of the final volume of guidebook on the Via Francigena would be at the very high point. So our own prior guide to the Via Francigena split up the Via Francigena into 2 volumes. One ended at that high point, which is the Great St. Bernard Pass, and picked up at the top and continued on to the end, which is Rome. But having walked this part of the route twice, I believe that it's a better pilgrim experience to begin climbing the Alps and to experience the way up to the top of the Great St. Bernard Pass. And that's why at that transition between green and blue, we begin at Lausanne, because as I'll show you, the next 3 days or the next 6 or 7 days are really full of beautiful scenery. And if you just start at the top of the pass, you miss all of this great scenery. So let's take a look. Oh, wait, I should say too, while we're on this slide, let's just go back one slide if we could. The other thing to note is that we transition from blue to red at Lucca, because we recognize that Lucca to Rome is the most traveled stretch of the Via Francigena. So a person doesn't need to buy a guidebook that begins in Switzerland to walk from Lucca to Rome, or Lucca to Siena, or Siena to Rome. And that's why we've split that off into an 18-stage guidebook of its own. So the idea is to give the best options for people that are walking all or part of the route. So let's now go to the next slide. And this is our section map of the beginning of Book 2 at Lausanne, and as it makes its way to the Great St. Bernard Pass. You're looking at the top of the map and the right-hand side in Switzerland. The bottom and the left side of the map is in France. But notice that you're at this enormous lake. The French call this, and the Swiss call this Lac Léman. We English-speaking people call it Lake Geneva, because on the far west side is Geneva, Switzerland. But you begin by walking along the shore of Lake Geneva, and it's spectacularly beautiful. Then you start just after Montreux at the village of Villeneuve. You start up the Rhone River Valley. And of course, the Rhone makes its way through Switzerland and then goes south to Provence and comes out at the Mediterranean. It's one of Europe's most important rivers. And so we're walking up some of the headwaters and some of the tributaries in order to get to the Great St. Bernard Pass. And this is where the beauty is just astounding. Let's take a look at the next slide. So my wife and I were walking along in 2018, and she took this picture of me, and I'm walking down among the vineyards in Switzerland with the town of Vevey and the town of Montreux ahead of me. You can see the waters of Lac Léman, Lake Geneva. You can also see the vineyards. Switzerland has lots of vineyards in this area. Somebody once said that Swiss wines are wasted on the Swiss. There's not much exporting of Swiss wines, but here they are. And you can begin to see the beauty of beginning in Lausanne because of this great territory. Let's look at the next slide. This is just slightly up the Rhone Valley at the town of Aigle, and this is the capital, the castle of Aigle, which is a French word that means eagle, but this town has been here since Roman times. And this castle, as it looks out over the Alps, is just another example of the great scenery on the way. In the next slide, you can see a picture of the outside of the Abbey at Saint Maurice. And so what's unique and special about this abbey is that since the year 500, the monks of this abbey have been raising prayers. So for 1,500 years of continuous service, this monastery has been there for travelers, for prayers, and also for pilgrims. And it's possible for you to stay at this abbey in the shadow of the cliff in the Rhone River Valley. And it's one of the great locations for an overnight. In the next slide, you can see the backside of the abbey and the archaeological digs that show and confirm that this abbey has been here for over 1,500 years. The next slide, we're walking up to the Great St. Bernard Pass. This is what you would miss if you started at the top of the pass. And this is my wife. She's wearing her favorite orange down jacket and is making her way with me taking pictures of her along the way. In fact, she's on the cover of Book 2 as we climb to the pass. And this is what you see in the next slide when you get to the very top of the pass. It's the Pilgrim Hospice at the top. that has been in continuous service for 1,000 years. It's open year-round, even when the whole area is only accessible by skis and snowshoes. And I think in the next slide, I have a picture of the view from, oh, I think we might have skipped a slide. If you can go 2 slides back. There we go. That's what it looks like to look out from the hospice. And you're standing in Switzerland, looking across Lake Great St. Bernard at Italy. And there's a little hotel there called Hotel Italia. And it's just spectacular. And having walked up to that, you have the joy of having arrived at about 2,400 meter height, which is over 8,000 feet in one of the most famous passes. In May of 1800, Napoleon crossed this route. In the 1st century BC, Augustus Caesar subdued the local natives and claimed this territory for Rome. So let's go 2 slides ahead, and you can see the downhill now as you're walking down from the Great St. Bernard Pass. You're in the Aosta Valley, which itself is scenically beautiful. The next slide, you can see the town of Aosta. And I mentioned Caesar Augustus. There's a Roman arch that was built at about the end of the 1st century BC that is still standing. In fact, many Roman ruins in Aosta. And you walk along the outside of this arch as you leave Aosta, which has to be one of the most beautiful cities in northern Italy because it's surrounded by mountains, a great destination for skiing, and also a super destination for pilgrims. In the next slide, you can see what this Aosta Valley looks like. It's covered in beautiful green mountains, and the trail takes you along the mountainside so you can look down at these beautiful valleys. Then in the next slide, you can see some other examples of Roman work here, because the Romans carved this archway out of the living stone of this mountainside. And there are 2 pilgrims walking through it. I think they were Danish pilgrims. And this is very near the town of Pont-Saint-Martin, and one of the scenic spots in the Aosta Valley, just after the village and fortress at Bard. And then you come into the Piemonte or Piedmont area. And this is a castle just outside of Ivrea, and gives you an idea of what this territory is like. Piemonte means foot of the mountains, and here's a castle at the foot of the Alps. And the territory now begins to flatten out as you continue south. In the next slide, you can see the Alps in the background, but now the terrain has become much more flat. And this is Lago di Vivarone, and I'm standing in Vivarone, a town in Piemonte, and looking out toward the Alps. And a little bit happy that the terrain is flattened out a little bit. You continue on out of Piemonte, and you come to the vast grain fields of Lombardia or Lombardy. And here you see some corn. In the next slide, you'll see a little bit more corn. And in the next slide, well, I didn't include a slide of rice, but there are vast fields of rice that are watered with the water of the Alps and the Po River. In fact, I wondered how I could get a great meal of the rice from this region. And so I sort of complained to the hospitalero at the albergue, or the hostel that I was staying at in the town of Mortar, or Robbio, I should say. And he said, why don't you come for lunch to my parents' house, and my mom will fix you a risotto lunch. So there is a fellow pilgrim at the head of the table. There's the family. And Nonna had cooked for us a beautiful risotto luncheon that day because of my complaints to the hospitalero that I had not had a rice dinner yet. So we continue on after this rice region in the next slide and come to the wonderful town of Parma. The third largest dome in Italy is the cathedral at Parma, and it's right on the Ticino River, which is one of the tributaries of the Po, the mighty Po River, and it's a university town. So as you enter the town, you'll be quick to notice that there are lots of university students at the cafes and other places along the way. Now, Sidgeric, the archbishop that was mentioned a little earlier by Luca, must have crossed the Po River on his way back from Rome to Canterbury. And so to remember that, it's possible just before the town of Piacenza to take a ferry. And there is a ferryman by the name of Danilo who helps to make sure that every day pilgrims are ferried on a 4-kilometer route across the Po River. And it's really one of the most fun parts of the entire Via Francigena. It costs 10 euros, and it's worth 10 times that to experience a little break from walking and make your way to Piacenza by crossing the river on a boat. So then after Piacenza, you come to Luca's town, which is Fidenza. And Fidenza has one of the great Romanesque cathedral buildings in this entire area. You're looking at the right side of the front portals at some of the 12th century carvings that were made here for the Cathedral of San Donino. It's a really spectacular place. And I imagine if I were Luca working in Fidenza, I would spend every lunch break just admiring the bas-relief sculptures on the outside of this amazing building. Now, that's almost the end of the Po River Valley, and you start up the mountains at this point. So in the next slide, I show a picture from the top of the mountains, because you've already crossed the Alps. You've been through the foothills of the Alps at Piemonte, through the flatlands in Lombardia and Emilia-Romagna. And in this southern stretch of Emilia-Romagna, you stand at the border with Tuscany at the peaks of the Apennines. And so then after crossing the Apennines, you come to the Carrara marble region in Lunigiana, which is also a very historic region. And this marble was transported all around the world. It's the marble of the statue of David in Florence, of the Pietà, and of the exterior of many, many buildings in all throughout Italy and all throughout the world. It's prized for its beautiful white, sometimes pure white color. Continue on, cross a small ridge in the mountains and come to Lucca, one of Italy's most beloved towns. It's fully encircled by its Renaissance walls. This is the Church of San Michele in Foro, which is right at the heart of Lucca and in a place where the Romans had their forum, in this formerly Roman town. And you begin the walk through Tuscany. And I hope you can tell that I'm excited to describe this. And probably, I guess I'm in danger of going overtime. But I'm excited to describe all this because the scenery and the history and the architecture and the sites are so spectacular. But you continue on after Lucca and you're walking through Tuscany. This is, again, my wife, Teresa, and we were together in 2018 walking from Lucca to Siena, and we just loved every minute of it. That's how wonderful this area is. Continue on and you pass through amazing towns like Monteregione, which is fully encircled by its walls. It was an outpost for Siena. And then you continue on, and this is a picture of a couple of my fellow pilgrims. They're both Italians. And we walked from this spot, which is a little bed and breakfast called Acqua Fredda. See, I'm going to forget the name right now, but we're looking out toward the village at Radicofani, and you can get a sense of the spectacular Tuscan scenery around us. We continue on, and you make our way into Lazio. One of the great places in Lazio is Lago Bolsena. So I encourage you to bring your swim trunks. There are Beatrice and Damiano and I at the shores of Lago di Bolsena at the town of Bolsena. They had already swam. It was a little cold by the time I made it there, so I didn't swim that day. You go on, and at the town, or actually as you make your way, you continue on finally to Rome. These are fellow pilgrims that I met that sent us their picture when they had arrived in Rome. They had started in Spain for their walk on the Via Francigena. So just a couple of highlights then. In the next slide, you can earn a testimonium by walking at least 100, I believe it's 100 or 140 kilometers before Rome. This is my friend Greg, who is British and lives near Arezzo, and he earned his testimonium in 2019. And then continue with the next slide. And this is my 2019 pilgrim family. You can see Greg and Damiano and Beatrice and those people that you saw sitting in front of the Vatican in Rome. And like any great pilgrimage, it's partly about the walk, and then it's partly about the people that you meet. And these are some of the people that I met, and my memories of them and my love for them is timeless. They've helped to make the Via Francigena a great experience for me. On the next slide, I want to show you a few items that are unique about these volumes and that describe some of the uniquenesses of our pilgrimage series. So at the top, you see our description of a hostel. And this is Ostello su Jericho, which is outside of Gambassi Terme. And you see a series of letters there, like O, P, R, D, O, R, B, R. And those stand for things that are shown in a key. O means open all year round. PR means private rooms. DO means dormitory. R means reservations. BR means breakfast is available. DR means dinner is available. CR is credit card is possible to use. S means storage for a bicycle. And Z means that it's handicap accessible. So you become used to these, but that's a lot of information to be able to show. There are 12 rooms and 40 beds, price of a dormitory, and then single, double, and triple are listed. The address is given, email address, telephone numbers, and then information about that lodging. You can see in the description of Siena, it says how far you're walking to get to Siena, the elevation and population, and then another series of symbols that you get used to. And they show that there is restaurant, there's food, there's accommodations, there are banks, bus, train, pharmacy, clinic, hospital, and tourist information. And then that it's 277.8 kilometers to get to Rome, the final destination. And then Appendix A is something that we do as well. And what we have done is we've listed all of the places where there's accommodation. We've shown where we have identified the overnight stages, and then we've given pilgrims the opportunity to plan their own stages. And this is included in every one of our new pilgrimage series guidebooks. So we think this set of information really makes for a fabulous pilgrimage experience for people that walk routes that are served by our pilgrimage template guidebooks. In the last picture, I think I did include a slide with, I guess that's the last one. Well, I wanted to conclude just by saying how much I love the Via Francigena pilgrimage and how much it's meant to me over these 3 years. I encourage people, especially those who have walked the Camino de Santiago, to look at the Via Francigena as a pilgrimage route, because it, especially in Italy, it has all of the infrastructure, it has all the support you need, and it has more than what you might expect, and even more than you can hope for in terms of amazing sights and people to meet, which are all great contributors to an outstanding pilgrimage walk. So that was my description of it. And now we get to hear from somebody who has also done most of the Via Francigena in Italy, and that's Myra Stalls. And Myra's also doing another project this year. And we want to hear from her both about what she's done in the past and what she has coming up for her this year. So let's go ahead and bring Myra into the stream now. And I just want to say to you, Myra, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandy. I'm very happy, very pleased to be here and to be part of this book presentation.
I'm very excited as well to have you here. And I want you to tell us, first of all, what made you want to make a pilgrimage in the first place on the Via Francigena?
Okay, I will immediately start sharing some photos while I explain why I started doing the Via Francigena. Let me see. Okay, here we go. You should be able to see this photo. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, perfect. So as Hannah already said in the beginning of the presentation, I am originally from the Netherlands, but I've been living in Italy since a very long time, more than 8 years already. And I lived in Florence, in Tuscany, for many years. And while living there, and while exploring Tuscany, I was always curious about these signs, as you can see in the photo. That said Via Francigena, with the arrow pointing either to the right or the left or straight onwards. And I didn't really know what it was at the time, but it just got stuck in the back of my head. And I started reading a little bit about it. And some friends of mine told me that they walked bits and pieces of the Via Francigena and that it was really something to do, an amazing experience. And so with this thought in the back of my head and with me setting up my initiative, Cycle to Recycle, which through which I try to raise awareness about plastic pollution, in 2019, I actually, without planning it on purpose, ended up on the Great St. Bernard Pass, the same photo that you showed before, and I was amazed also by the beauty in this area, both before the pass, the climbing, as well as the part afterwards. For me, I totally agree with you that the climbing before and then the descent, they are part of the same package, so to say, the same emotions, and it's a full experience. And so after having heard about the Via Francigena and having seen some of the sceneries, last year I decided that I wanted to cycle through entire Italy while collecting plastic waste, because I care a lot about the environment. And the Via Francigena, of course, is being a pilgrimage route, slow travel, reflection towards inside, but also towards the territory, the surrounding areas and environment. I felt that the Via Francigena would be a great route, a great itinerary to do this awareness raising about plastic pollution. And so I contacted the EAWF and asked them if they would be interested in helping me out and giving me a hand with also the organizational part, or giving me some contacts along the route. And that's how I started my big adventure last year along the Via Francigena.
Wow, that is really fantastic. Well, will you share with us then some of the memorable moments that you had along your way? I'm fascinated to see what your experience was like.
Absolutely. So I started my adventure along the Via Francigena in Torino, or more in Vercelli, the area that you mentioned before with all the rice fields. And I made my way all the way towards Rome, and then onwards along the Via Francigena of the south to Santa Maria di Leuca. And I knew beforehand that it was going to be a very challenging trip, not even so much physically, although physically it is challenging, but mentally, because it's really something. You really get to know yourself a lot better. You learn a lot of things, and you really you get to know your limits, and learn that often they are much further than you actually think that they were. For example, one of my best memories, but also the most difficult one at the time, was climbing the Passo della Cisa in the Apennines, the beautiful blue bump on your like altitude, which there it seemed low, but in the searing Italian sun, it was rather difficult, but in the end, it's one of the most like nostalgic feelings and most beautiful memories that I have, because the scenery is beautiful, and the people that I met, like cheering me on and asking me what I was doing, why I was picking up plastic. So these meetings with people are for me one of the most important and the most amazing parts of doing the pilgrimage along the Via Francigena. For example, here in Fidenza, I met with some people from the European Association. I'm here exactly in the same spot of the cathedral. Meeting also, exactly, that's a coincidence. Also meeting with some people from the municipality to spread the word about the plastic pollution. And of course, one of the most amazing parts of the Via Francigena is the architecture, the history, the beautiful nature. And here I'm actually in this photo. This is inside Monteriggioni, the little town that has the big walls around it. And also here I met with people who hosted me and who shared my passion for Italy, for slow travel. Came across beautiful landscapes with a lot of sunflowers, which for me, like this ways of slow travel, although cycling is a little bit faster than walking, but I also love walking. I'm also a walking enthusiast. You really get to appreciate these things in a car or in a train. You go by like this and it's gone, while you really get to appreciate every little bit and piece of the changing scenery and the people that you meet, and it really enriches you as a person. That's like, for me, it just leaves a memory that remains for always. The Via Francigena, here I'm in the Val d'Orcia, close to Gallina, and I was also being welcomed here just for a quick lunch or a quick coffee, because people in these very little towns, which I prefer to actually go through, like to be in the little towns, to stop in the little towns instead of the bigger cities, because the people are so hospitable. They're so hospitable because they recognize you immediately as a pilgrim, and they invite you in for a coffee or a drink or just a glass of water or just a little break. And these meetings are very precious.
Yeah.
Other very memorable moments are often also the challenging ones. As I said about the Passo della Cisa, the climbing, they can also be the unexpected moments. Like here, a huge thunderstorm passed on the Via Francigena without me knowing about it, of course. And yeah, so this was challenging because it was actually quite deep. But now looking at these photos, these are the most the fond memories, because it's something that I overcame. It's something that I managed, and it just gives this feeling of growing a little bit as a person, because maybe it's like this challenge, and then all of a sudden, maybe for a moment you're worried about, will I be able to do it or not, and then you do it and it's done, and it gives this amazing feeling.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just want to say about that picture, what we're looking at basically is a mud puddle then, and that you would be biking down the middle of it, but instead you're on the side of it trying to navigate your bike through it. Is that right?
Exactly. Also accompanied by another Via Francigena passionate, Renzo Ferri, who lives in like exactly along the Via Francigena, and who also does a lot of maintenance work and cleaning and promotion of this amazing route voluntarily, because he cares about it so much. And meeting these people, like them giving me a hand or just helping me out, that's amazing. Really, really great. Just some beautiful scenery from the Val d'Orcia, which you cross for free, basically. It's there for the taking, and it's I can't remember how often I stopped for a photo, to take a photo, and I have thousands of photos of the Via Francigena in Italy, because it's just too beautiful to not take a photo of.
Yeah.
Of course, the moment of reaching Rome is it's special. Like, this is the first moment I saw Rome written, and even though for me the destination is not the goal, definitely for me the road became the goal. Everything that's between the start and the end of the day, that's important for me. The other two things are, like a B side. But seeing the sign that says Rome this way was very very, very beautiful. And of course, arriving in Rome is one of my great memories, because it was a milestone.
Spectacular.
And I made two collages of some of the meetings that I had along the Via Francigena, because in the end, if people ask me, what did you like the most about the Via Francigena? It's the people. It's the meeting the people, meetings that you don't expect in the most places where there's nobody. All of a sudden you find a fellow pilgrim and you end up doing a little bit of the road together, or you get invited for dinner or for coffee, or these meetings. The people. For me, the people make the Via Francigena most of all.
That's wonderful.
And as since I had also the plastic pollution message, or raising awareness about plastic pollution, I also had meetings with lots of official representatives of local authorities. So this collage is also with them.
Yeah, that's outstanding. What a great journey. Now, we're running a little low on time, but I want you to talk to us about the future that you're planning in terms of your trek this coming season. So talk to us about the road to Rome.
Okay. So as Luca already said in the beginning of this presentation, the European Association of the Via Francigena has its 20th birthday this year, and we are organizing this 4-month relay march all the way from Canterbury to Santa Maria di Leuca. So 3,200 kilometers over 127 days. Walking, most of it, and then some stretches will be done by bicycle. And this, of course, is to celebrate our 20th anniversary, but it's also a way to help to relaunch sustainable tourism after the pandemic, because there's an ever-growing interest in walking or cycling along itineraries, pilgrims routes, and we as a Via Francigena are organizing this participative march where local associations, local authorities, regions, they will all participate, and we will have a fixed group of 4 or 5 walkers. I myself will be the social media manager, and I will do the entire 3,200 kilometers. So it's going to be
that's
gonna be an interesting challenge. And we will start on the 16th of June from Canterbury, although probably it will be a symbolic start there, because probably we won't be able to actually physically go to Canterbury. But then the pilgrim stick will go to Calais, and we will start on the 17th of June from Calais, arriving in Rome on the 10th of September, and then onwards to Santa Maria di Leuca in Puglia, where we will arrive on the 18th of October. It'll be, as I said, inclusive, participative, a moment of reflection, but also a possibility for us to tell all the stories about the Via Francigena through heritage, through the people, gastronomy, history, nature, And yeah, this is it's going to be a huge event. We are working on all the aspects like logistics, communication. We have launched a call for bloggers and influencers, which can be found on our website. And by the end of April, beginning of May, we will launch a crowdfunding campaign because we already learned that lots of people want to participate. They feel like they want to be part of this this big initiative that will hopefully like put the Via Francigena in a more international spotlight.
Wow,
And
Myra, that's wonderful. That's really outstanding. And so I just have one word of advice for you. In your 3,200 kilometer walk, make sure you take care of your feet.
yes, exactly. I will have to do some proper training, and shoes are definitely very important.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, thank you so much for that overview. We have some questions from our audience now, and I'd like to invite Luca to rejoin our stream because I think he'll be able and important to answer some of these questions. In fact, the very first question is, what is the status of the accommodations? When do you expect that they will be open in the whole environment of COVID and the pandemic? Luca, do you have any ideas about that? Oh, Luca, I think you're muted right now.
Much better now. Yeah, to be honest, I'm not a decision maker in this case, but
Sure.
to be optimistic, probably by the end of May, yes, I presumably can say yes. End of May, beginning of June, probably the majority part of the pilgrim hostels and hotels along the way will be open. In any case, we are going to check from Canterbury to Rome and also to the very south of Italy, because this extension.
Yeah. Okay, it's good to remind us that nobody is really in charge of that, but we can predict. And to me, that sounds like a very logical prediction too, based on what I've been hearing as well. So that's good news. And I know that you've planned the road to Rome with an anticipation of when accommodations and travel are going to be possible. And since that's starting in mid-June, that's a real indication of your level of confidence in things being open by that time. So another question from a listener and from an audience member is, the route south of Rome, question is, how well marked is that down into Puglia and so on? So I don't know if Luca wants to answer that, or Myra, whoever would like to answer.
Just maybe before Myra, just to say that this situation is under control now, especially in cooperation with regions, associations, and municipalities. We are working to implement the signposting marks along the way. Yeah. Probably by the end of this year, will be completely full of panels along the way. And also another good news is about the application. The app will be implemented, updated from Rome, very south of Italy, by the end of summer. So these are two good news.
Okay, very good. Myra, anything to add to that?
No, only that when I was in that area last year, the Via Francigena of the South was like, it was not even a year that it had been officially recognized. So it was still a work in progress, but I managed to reach Santa Maria di Leuca. Sometimes I had to use my phone, the map, just to check to be sure. Sometimes the signage was a bit confusing at the time, but now we will already be 1 year later, with 1 year of like additional efforts and works and signposting. So I'm sure the state is going to be much better compared to last year. And last year I managed to reach Santa Maria di Leuca also. So.
Good, yeah, excellent. Now another question from an audience member is, what is the surface that is walked on in the Via Francigena? And I think the question is, are we talking about tarmac and asphalt? Are we talking about gravel or dirt roads? And I'll take a try at that. And then maybe Luca and Myra want to add as well. And the answer is really dependent on the stage. So there are some stages that are on asphalt. I'm thinking of the stage between Fiorenzuola, Darda, and Fidenza, for instance, Luca, where there are only a couple of small stretches that are on gravel or dirt. And then the stretch between Lucca and Alto Pascio that's mostly on asphalt. But I think it's fair to say that Luca and his crew have been doing an outstanding job of finding alternatives to walking on pavement. And that's very well done in certain areas. So for instance, in the Val d'Aosta, there are the main path essentially is up on walking trails that take mountain pathways on the edges of the foothills. There's a bike option also that's completely on asphalt, but I think the Via Francigena has done a very, very good job of finding non-asphalt roads all the way, especially through from the Great St. Bernard Pass to Rome. Luca, anything to add to that?
No, I totally agree with you, especially in connection with the small villages. Yeah, the walking path, the secondary path, safety path, and then of course we have many big cities along the Via Francigena. So of course Rome, but Siena, Aosta, Reims. So of course around the big city, the most important cities, so we can consider asphalt. But more or less it's like the Camino de Santiago. I think in this case you can compare the both. Camino Santiago Via Francigena is more or less the same.
Yeah, I agree with that, having walked both. Well, I'm sorry that our time is just about up and we have to turn it back to Hannah to close.
Sandy, I have a question for you. Do you think could you survive without speaking French and Italian along the Via Francigena?
Oh, good question.
Or English speaker.
Yeah, no, I have 5 years of French and some study in Italian, so I have enough to get by. But I think especially in Switzerland, English is just fine without any Italian. And I think that in the large cities especially, that it's fine to survive without Italian in Italy. But I do think it's good if you can just pop into your backpack the little Rick Steves Italian English phrase book. I think that's a really good thing. And I'm just imagining that south of Rome, that would be even more helpful. But I would say, don't let the language stop you from doing this. And something to know also about parts of Europe. The younger people are required, starting at the age of 12, to take Italian. They might pretend, or to take English in school. They might pretend that they don't know any English, but it's not true. They actually know more English than they let on. So, great question, Luca.
Yeah, and a final recommendation it's true that you do not lose weight along the Via Francigena. Definitely not.
Well, I have walked Spain and Italy, and I have to say, Italy has Spain beat in terms of pilgrim food. And there's always a new adventure, and every town has its own pasta. So it's a great gastronomic adventure as well. Well, we have to turn it over now to Hannah so that she can wrap things up for us. But I want to say my own thank you to Luca and to Myra for joining us in this book launch event. Hannah, it's all yours.
Thanks so much. That was amazing. I know we have run out of time, and I'm so grateful to all the audience for sending in so many questions. And I promise I did send as many as possible, but there were just quite a lot. So thank you for that. And thank you again to Sandy, Luca and Myra for sharing some of your stories. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I think a lot of people have been feeling really inspired. Someone who's tuned into a great number of our live events has expressed a little frustration because she was planning to do the Way of St. Francis, which is another Sandy Brown guidebook, after one of our live events. And now she says, now she wants to do the Via Francigena. So yeah, I can only apologise about that, Imba. So thanks again to our guests, and thank you to the audience for joining us. This recording will be available on the Cicerone Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and the Cicerone website. So if you know anyone that would be interested, please send it their way if they've missed the event tonight. If you are interested in getting a copy of the guidebook for part 2 and part 3, you can find those at cicerone.co.uk, along with details of all our previous live events and our upcoming live events, as well as the podcast and all the articles and everything like that. There is the discount code VF25 if you would like to claim your discount there as well. So thanks again to everybody, and hopefully we'll see you at our next Cicerone live event, or now we're allowed, maybe out on the trails. Good night. Thanks so much.